Welcome back. You're watching Canadian Innovators. Joining me today is Philip Cross, Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Now, we haven't yet seen a budget from the Carney government, which of course is problematic for a lot of different reasons. And that hasn't stopped him, however, from spending a lot of our money and making some multi-year commitments on such things as the fairly major increases in military spending, for example. A budget is promised for October of this year. What do you expect to see in the budget, Philip?
Well, I think we'll see persistently large deficits, even though there's been a lot of talk here in Ottawa, especially about the Carney government cutting program spending 15%. That's not going to go anywhere close to addressing the upward pressure in the deficit from the sharp increase in defense spending that you mentioned, but also the drop in tax revenues from. Remember, this government has said the first thing they did was cut the carbon tax. One of the second things they did was lower income taxes across the board. And meanwhile, the heritage of this government from the previous administration was sharp increases in social spending in everything from daycare to dental care to pharmacare. So it's going to be next to impossible to keep the deficit under control with all these upward pressures on a wide range of spending and a refusal to raise taxes to meet them. To be fair to this government, though, that this makes this government entirely consistent with everything else we're seeing in Canada. All the large provinces are running large deficits, Ontario, Quebec, and BC. And you look around the world and you see the same thing. I mean, the government in France today fell because they cannot get a consensus on how to address their deficit. Europe has the same problem of how do we substantially increase defense spending while maintaining the welfare state. We see in the US, the Trump budget bill just passed has large deficits. So, governments everywhere are struggling to come to terms with the basic fact that, in an era of where interest rates are not zero anymore like they were during the pandemic, governments are going to have to make some difficult choices about reducing spending and increasing taxes. And very few governments are ready to make those choices yet.
Yeah. If you were writing the budget, what would be your top priorities? And how do they differ from what you think will be in the Liberal budget?
Well, I think the priority has to be, as we were just talking about in the previous segment, is getting business investment going again. Without that, without more investment, we're not going to get the entrepreneurship, the innovation, and restoring the competitiveness. We need to take advantage of higher trade. We want to diversify trade outside of the U.S., but to do that, we're going to have to improve the competitiveness of the business sector here. And I don't see the government doing anything dramatic there to Jack Mintz, for example, with whom I work occasionally, probably the most esteemed economist in this country, wrote an article recently that would be a good time for Canada to introduce some dramatic moves in taxes, such as, for example, introducing the lowest corporate tax rate in the G7. Look at what happened to Ireland when they adopted such a policy. It drew a lot of attention from around the world. We need to do something dramatic to tell businesses around the world that Canada is open for business again, and that the thinking that we've dropped the anti-business attitudes that that government has had over the past 10 years, and that we're looking to actually not just be neutral towards business, which is what Carney seems to be so far, which admittedly is an improvement over the anti-business agenda of the Trudeau regime, but that we're looking openly to embrace business. So that's what I would be looking for if I was crafting the budget.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned Ireland because, as you say, it had a massive dramatic effect in attracting so many head offices of major U.S. companies and things like that as well. But what I found interesting was the pressure Ireland came under from other countries to increase their taxes again, because the whole global developed world doesn't like that when somebody when somebody does things like drastically slash a tax, and therefore it proves that high taxes are very punitive to the economy as a result. So I thought, well, there you go. You can't even you can't even do that for very long before everybody else tries to pressure you, because Ireland has increased their corporate taxes again since then. Well, anyway, we do have to take another quick break now. Please don't go away. You're watching Canadian Innovators.